subject of friendship, and I described a little what we spoke about last month, and that any of the viewers now who are joining in can have a look at that recording. It's on our YouTube channel on Pantarei Approach. This live will also be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel, so fear not if you've missed something. But from that topic of lightness, of friendship, of the growth of Pantarei, and friendship as almost a value or something that is simply infused in the work you do and who you are, to something a little more serious, a little more somber, of today's subject of unwanted emotions. So I'd like to just open up the question to you of what do you mean by unwanted emotions, and why you chose that subject for our discussion today.
Let's say it's a broader question of this conversation we have today. So first of all, clearly the Pantarei approach doesn't relate to emotions as positive and negative. We just have emotions. Sometimes we are happy about the emotions that we feel, and sometimes we would rather somebody else have them, or nobody ever at all needs to experience anything like that. And when we talked about unwanted emotions, we thought about all of those emotions that we relate to as human beings normally as negative, sadness, loneliness, stress, things that jealousy, anxiousness, fear, things that when we feel them, we really want to do everything in our power just to make them go away. From our experience, and actually the initiative to talk about this came from two sources. One was a last post blog of Emily, one of the students who learned with us, who related to emotions and talked about how much she was disconnected from emotions, and for some times of her life was very happy for that sensation that she doesn't have any issue with emotions, and then realizing that there is a way to connect to your emotions, and you cannot then choose having only one kind of emotions. You even have it all open for this beautiful flow of life to come through you, or you put it aside and said, I don't want that. So that was one reason we thought this would be really great. And the other one is that in a private discussion Claudia and me had about clients that recently come to us, we both agreed that it was very interesting for us that, it's summer here in Berlin, in many places, people go for holidays. The COVID situation, not that it's gone, but it's not as much, the restrictions are not so strong, and people feel that they can come back to their own life. And still we have many clients that come to us with very intense emotions that they don't manage to deal with. So I'll let Claudia continue, but that was the two main motivations we had when we said, hey, let's talk about unwanted emotions, even if it's summer, and even if it's a time for holiday, and even if it's a time that we just want to have fun and enjoy our life and go ahead and say, oh, thanks God that we are not needing to be busy so much with, at least with COVID, in the way it was until not so long time ago.
And we can say that unwanted emotions is a strong title that obviously we also choose, that it's clear we are talking about that. Like Vered said, we had two directions from why we thought this topic might be interested. And one was because the clients are coming in these situations a lot lately with emotions that we could say are unwanted, or if I put it a little bit more mildly, that are somehow in the background running and a bit confusing, because, well, it said there is summer and we went through challenging times, but right now everything should be actually okay. And then we often get surprised by, but we don't feel that way. There is something that is still there, and I would already like to move on or to be in a different place. It's almost as if these emotions disturb my life rather than now enhance a situation, or maybe they are not coming in time, or it's all about these emotions that per se can empower us and are really uniquely making us human also, because we are able to feel, but in certain moments, instead of empowering us, they feel to do rather the opposite. And of course, then we don't want them in our life, or we don't naturally would tackle them head on, like the things everybody knows, like we don't like to do the taxes, so we push them until the end of the year, until there is no prolongation anymore for it. And sometimes it feels we do with our emotions the same. And of course, the more we do them, the more unwanted they become, even if some might be very deep, but some might be also just something we need to close. And because we are after and in challenging times, emotions are there to guide our way. And it was an opportunity to put them up front, so that at the end, hopefully they can be part of the summer joy and summer sadness, or holidays and all the variety that comes with it.
Yeah. And I like how you've described it, because you both touched upon one, the emotion itself, which some emotions, especially if you're dealing, if you have a recurring emotion, say over a longer period of time, that doesn't seem to shift or change. There's one thing of working through a time of intensity of emotion, and the other that you also spoke about a little is our then perception or even judgment on how we're feeling. And that I think generally in society, I think we can all relate to, there's this expectation that now you're related to summertime and holiday time should be fun, should be happy to share with family. If that is not your case, what is wrong with you? What's your problem? Like there's something critically mismatched, misaligned. And very often our emotions or our sensations don't always go hand in hand with the situation we're in, or the expectation of others of how we should feel in a given situation, right?
Yeah, let's say if somebody is really, something happened and we are sad, everyone would, nobody would expect us not to be sad. We would get the embrace, we would get the support that we need. But when we are sad, few months later, people would ask, but why are you still sad? Like it happened way at that time. And sadness doesn't have rules. We cannot tell it, well, now it's time to be over. You're separated from your partner 5 years ago, don't be sad about it anymore. It doesn't work like that. It's way more messy. It's way more, things are moving, changing, dancing, going up and down all the time. And emotions is a dance. Like we need to let it come. We need to accept quite a lot when we are talking about emotions. We do need to find a way to say, yes, we would like to, we agree, not even that we would like. It's not that I like to feel sadness or I like to feel loneliness. I don't believe that anyone loves that or would invite that on purpose. But when those kind of emotions come, we need to keep the door open. And from our experience, even the only way that something would change would be when we leave this door open, when we say that's okay. I'm also okay not to be happy all the time, or I'm a human being. As a human being, I cannot be a happy person all the time. I cannot just have joy. I have such a interesting range of emotions that we would like to give it the place, the time, and not to rush into saying that's not okay, that's okay, not to have all of those judgments, even if it's not suitable to the situation.
And I think often it's exactly like you described before, that there are certain expectations how we are supposed to feel, but in the same time, we should know already better that we cannot we cannot change how we feel about something. Like I can so much explain to myself, I should be happy now. And if I'm kind of all different kind of sensations, this will not bring me to be happy. It will just be a cause of you could say in an extreme way, suffering or prolonging, adding another problem to the whole situation. Instead of that I can deal with how I feel, am I only adding on top. I now also need to feel how I'm supposed to feel in order to give space to justify who I am. And I think often when clients come to us in a process, one of the first steps that we remind them of is, hey, let's first of all acknowledge that the way how you feel is a value and it's valuable. And no, you don't have to feel like everybody else. If I look at it from the other side, this is what makes you you, that you are maybe not being happy at the moment, or you need this amount of time to digest something. And it's often sad if I'm already with the emotions, but we need a reminder for our emotions. First of all, when they are here, they are there for a reason, and we cannot change them. We can flow with them, we can experience them, we can question why they are there, but there is no way that I get myself to love what you love exactly in the same manner, or what Vered loves exactly in the same manner, how much I'm breaking my head about it. And so I think if we understand that already more, or incorporate that more, it makes dealing with our emotions when we are in trouble with them or in dissonance much easier, to understand, no, I'm feeling the way how I'm feeling, and there will be a reason for it. There will be a way to follow if I acknowledge and give it the value.
And I think just to add one more thing, I really feel like also when Claudia talked now, we need each other to deal with unwanted emotions. It's not like, of course, I would love to say, yes, I'm in flow with any unwanted emotions whenever I feel sadness for a few days. It's completely fine. Or if I feel lonely, I'm completely fine. Or if I feel insulted, but it's, I think when we have somebody else that feels sad, we all can say that's really okay. I think for most people, it's okay to have somebody sad next to them, or to give them a hand, or to see what we can do with that. But when we feel that ourselves, we immediately feel, wow, that's just completely not okay. Here I really need to change something. Here I need to be stronger. I need to be happier. I need to hide it. I need not to show it. People would not like me if they would know how I feel. We have so many ideas about it that even if we are very smart about emotions, I really feel that there we often need another person. We need to share it with another person. We need to see that it's okay for the other person, that this is how we feel. And so Claudia mentioned this is what happens between us as practitioners and clients. The first thing that happens is really just to say, that's really okay. That's truly okay. You can just feel that way. Let's start from where you are. Let's start not by doing a great effort to feel something else or to be in a different place within yourself.
Which is what Lena, I just saw briefly in the comments. Lena also said sometimes when she's during a challenge, she doesn't feel much. It's almost like she distances herself, and then after the challenge is over, then come the emotions and the feeling and the intensity of what has happened. And you both touched on so many, what you've just said was packed with so much different information, from feeling many emotions. I'd like to ask you also about feeling different emotions at the same time, that they're not exclusive. Because I remember a blog post by you also highlighting this, to acknowledge that, okay, if you're feeling in a moment of sadness, that doesn't mean that it excludes a moment of joy or happiness in that same context.
Yeah, we actually, let's say we believe that the Pantarei Approach has the body as a part of the whole practice. We don't only talk about emotions, but we also experience emotions, and we invite our clients to experience what is happening. And for us, at least, it was very it was a beautiful surprise at the beginning that I remember even that Claudia and me had a conversation about it. So, well, it's really unbelievable because when we really bring it to the body, to the somatic experience of the person, when we include the physicality and we include the emotional part and we include the thinking and we include the energy, we include everything that the person is, it's very clear that people feel a lot together. So it's like I can be angry at the person that I love the most. I can feel insulted from somebody that I love so much and wants and care for. We can feel sadness and happiness together. We can feel grief and be very humoristic together. Like there is not one emotion that when it's there, we only feel that. We are way more complex, way more interesting, way more with different kind of layers in our life, and definitely our layers, part of what create them are actually emotions. So we want people to feel all together because many times when we experience it together, we can connect to our life and we can connect also to what we want to do with all of what we feel.
And again, you touched on so much of flow, of uniqueness, and also of Pantarei sessions. And perhaps I know your students and practitioners and clients will understand what you mean by connecting to the body and all of who you are. But maybe for those who don't know the Pantarei approach, describing a little of what happens in a Pantarei session if someone comes with the wish to change an emotion or change a state of mind that they've been experiencing, how a session might look, or where you would go with working with emotions.
I think you will have much more confidence and happiness because you have the dream job and the dream boyfriend, let's call it like this. Her panic attacks would come back and she would get stuck with a feeling that she could talk about that she is too much and everything of her will be too much. So at the beginning of the session, she would come and describe this situation to me. And I said to her, look, I'm just going, first of all, to reflect back to you what I hear beyond now the problem issue and what all doesn't work out in her head. Why is she unhappy when she should be happy? And maybe it's not the right boyfriend, maybe it's from her past, maybe it's connected to her childhood and all different things. And by talking, we enlarged exactly this topic already, looking at this emotion. What does it really mean for her when she feels she is too much? Yes, we looked where it might come from, but we connected it a lot to who she actually is. By that, we figured out that communication is important for her. In this sense, we figured out how much she needs to love her space. Like if I'm too much, I can focus on this negative part and I can feel that way. But if I would turn around and I look, maybe it's just a sign for how much you love and would like to have space and be with others together. It can already give you a different perspective. And then almost on her own, she said, oh, wow, yes, in the time when she was unemployed and not with a fixed boyfriend, she took her space. She was so free to do all of these kind of things. And now, in a way, we both said that this sensation of I am too much comes back as a reminder that she wants to keep that space that she worked, but also with the people she loves and with having expectations towards herself in the work. Now, this theoretically maybe even sounds too much to follow for whoever is not in Pantarei sessions, but then with this statement, it gave her a clarity, but then we would go to the table and see how this can be found and expressed in the body and in her experience. How does it really feel to be too much? And for her, it would come with shrinking herself and holding, and there was really no space and being trapped in a cage that made sweaty hands and heartbeat and everything I would know falls often under the description of panic attacks. And then I could show her what it means for her to have space and to breathe and to connect this to it, so that this emotion would turn into an experience that also she is, it's her, like she's part of, she's in control of. It reminds her of what she needs, not to be too much, but to make sure that she keeps her space when she is in these situations. So in a session we would talk, but then what we would discuss, we would look how is it reflected in an experience, and with the client together, the practitioner would guide towards a more fuller experience perspective.
So there also through your hands and physical touch and movement, very dynamic sessions.
Yes, exactly.
Which is
I
great.
would almost, no, sorry, I wanted to say that I think that especially when we talk about emotions, the physical part, the hands-on part of Pantarei sessions is really very important, meaningful, significant, because we can talk about emotions, but when we are talking about them, we try all the time to find the conclusions and to find the solution, and then we relate to it again as we have a problem. I have that feeling, I'm jealous, I feel lonely, I feel anxious, I feel depressed, of course, like I have something that is a problem, and I'm coming to a practitioner or to myself, and I'm saying I need a solution. And the entire Pantarei approach says we are not looking for a solution. We are looking for exploration, and we are looking all the time for how all of us can use our own resources in the best way to their own life. And sometimes it takes time, even if we are talking about recurring emotions, it takes time. It might take few sessions, it might take way more than a few sessions, that we will come back to the experience, and we will come back to talking about it and finding out what does it actually mean. Really, you are jealous. What does it mean in your life, and what in it we can find that is actually might be a source of your own strengths, if we would only know how to use it in a different way. So Claudia gave this example about panic attack. If I'm thinking about a client long time ago of somebody that came with the topic of jealousy, and for us it was just, jealousy was a door into incredible journey. It was, I'm today, when I'm thinking about that person, I'm not even thinking about jealousy. That was not at all what we found out throughout the process. We found out how, when I'm saying found out, again, as you said, maybe some people don't know what Pantarei Approach session looks like. It means my hands were on her body. I asked her questions. I asked her belly questions. I asked her heart questions. I asked her head questions. My hands communicated with her entire experience. And in those questions, we really looked at what does it mean for you? Why are you jealous? And with that particular client, it was a whole story of her childhood and how much lies were all the time in her family. And she never trusted anybody that they said the truth. And today in her relationship, she immediately felt as if she cannot trust her partner, because she felt they probably also lied to her, or whenever she had signs, it brought immediately all of that sensation of, I don't have enough honesty around me, my childhood family, the people I know from the sensation I know from my life way back then. And this actually led us to a whole interesting journey of exploring her wish for connections and belonging, and that's where the session continued. It was actually going into her strengths, was in how much she looked for honesty, for honest relationship, for openness in relationship, for people to say what they really think, what really is going on. And of course, then the jealousy with time reduced, or was not at all anymore the issue, but it was a beautiful doorway. It was a beautiful entry point to say, that's what I want to deal with. And at the end of the day, it was, yeah, a whole process about belonging, communication, honesty, saying the truth, or saying what you have in your own heart.
And that was beautifully expressed, and it was coming to one of my questions, which you've basically answered. So I don't need to ask it directly, but I guess many clients, and I know from my own practice, come with saying they feel a certain way, like jealousy, like you've just described, or I have panic attacks, as if boxing into a category. This is who I am now, which hides everything else that the person is, and hides their, as you described, their strengths, their uniqueness, what this feeling means to them. And the meaning is often very different to the feeling as it is expressed. So a joy that comes in a moment where everyone would say, this is a time of mourning or sadness. And for someone to feel joy in that moment, for everyone might feel very displaced. For that person has a very particular significance. And on that subject, I'd like to also ask Claudia to share a little. She wrote a beautiful blog post a few months ago in a challenging time for her personally through COVID and the death of her father, and something that shifted radically in one moment that was meant to be very serious, very somber, very, very sad. Well, I'll let you describe more, Claudia, because it is your story.
Challenging question here.
Memory that we are now going to talk how I went to the funeral home to see my dead father, that I was, due to Corona, not allowed to accompany him dying, which I always thought I will be. And obviously, when I went there to say my goodbyes and to see him, I was very sad and in shock from all of the different circumstances. My brother and sister didn't want to join us to go there because they had the chance to be with him in a hospital. And I went with my mother, but we were both so thrown off by all of the circumstances that I would say didn't allow us, if you can deal in one, find comfort in certain ceremonies. In the time of Corona, he died when it was just the first wave of it, and you were not allowed to go to the hospital. There was so little routines or comfort to be found. So we were very much, I remember a very quiet drive and sad drive to the funeral home, was half an hour away. And we prepared ourselves to enter where you could see his body. And when we entered into the room, I looked at my father and the funeral home owner. They styled his hair. He had still very full hair in an Elvis wave kind of thing. And my father would never wear and fun it. And it was always hairspray. So he looked very different and very styled, very good actually, not so much like my father. And I just thought that, and I started to crack laughing, because it was, in all of this moment of tragedy, so funny. And I looked at my mother, because I said, oh my God, what is she thinking? Her own daughter comes and starts cracking on the, how you say, now I'm missing the English words, on the coffin. And then I looked at her and I saw that she also suppressed a laugh. And then we finally looked at each other, and I think for 5 minutes we were simply sharing really a very, very strong laugh and laughter, until we warmly put his hair back the way how we know him. And you could say completely unplaced emotion, or this laughter and joy I didn't find before, suddenly was there with us in the room. And I think besides that, it showed me so strongly how our emotions connect us, like for once again with ourselves, because before we were just numb, we were in shock, and I felt myself, then I felt my mother. And we also, my father was a very funny guy, like he had always improper jokes. So when we started to laugh on his account of the hairstyle in his death, it reminded us suddenly how in all of this tragedy, really it was such a dark time, how much he loved jokes, and suddenly he was there with us. And the as if very unplaced, unwanted emotion at that time that was not proper was one that allowed us to connect with our love to him, with our love to our family. Yes, and I think once again shows the power of how emotions are connecting beyond everything. We in the studies always love to say beyond time, beyond death, beyond space. Emotions are just a great way to connect. And the other thing I forgot now.
Recite a story. I think it's completely allowed to forget whatever you forgot.
Yes,
Definitely, yeah, a very, very touching story, and it also doesn't mean that the sadness is gone. Like all those emotions are present, and the mourning continues for months, years after. There's a process. It's not somebody dies, I have a period of sadness, and now I should be happy and move on. The common thing of, yeah, but the event is over, move on with your life. You've broken up, like you mentioned earlier, with your boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner, and now is the moment. The months have passed. Go out and date again. You should be happy. You're single, free. Do what you want with life. These things don't. There's no right moment for an emotion or a right period in which to perceive an emotion.
exactly.
Like
You can
so beautifully described.
to laugh was definitely not the right moment at the time, but it was exactly what all of us needed in order to go. So it's a beautiful way to illustrate how much the emotions, like we started in the beginning, have their reason for us personally. Even if it doesn't seem fitting to whatever is there, they connect us either to ourselves, to what we need to do, to our surrounding, to how to move. Like emotions are supposed to set us into motion.
For sure. And in another blog post, you've written so many blog posts, beautiful stories, which anyone who hasn't found that site yet, look up pantareiapproach.com. We have a blog site where there are many stories from both Claudia and Vered, client examples, their personal stories, and different, don't want to say advice, but ideas to explore using Pantarei and the approach in life. Also to work through different times and challenges. And in one in particular, you had almost in a list throughout this blog post of 8 things to be aware of when dealing with emotions. And I think we've touched on many of them now, so we don't have to go through all of them again, but I thought maybe we can explore some of them that we haven't touched on yet, and you can share with us your perspective on them. So one is to be aware of the emotion that is happening, and I think awareness is a big one. Feelings that acknowledge that feelings change their shape, that you can go from sadness to joy in a matter of a second, that there is always a possibility for change and shift. Even if you've been feeling that you've been stuck in one emotion for a long time, there's always the chance that that can change, and the probability that that will change in dynamic in one form or other. The importance to express your emotions, maybe you can, that one wasn't so much, but it's definitely a big part of why clients come to practitioners, what you also teach your students in class. giving space for expression. Maybe you want to say something about that.
I would say that expression is important, but we also have to remember that expression again can be in many, many ways. Like people express their emotions sometimes by talking, sometimes by crying, sometimes by writing, sometimes by doing something, sometimes by a very long process. I think that what I would say today is maybe even specifically today for me, when we express our emotions, I think we have to be very aware of ourselves and also of our surrounding. It's a big thing to express what we feel. So if I'm angry at somebody, we need to think, how do I say it? We need to allow the feeling to be there. But when we are coming to another person and say, hey, you hurt me here, we need to be responsible not only to ourselves and to our own self emotions, but to our surrounding, to the people around us, to realize that we live amongst others, and the fact that we manage to deal with a certain emotion doesn't mean that somebody was there with us. And we need to find how we express, and we also need, I think, to realize how other people express what they feel. Some people express things very loud. Somebody that is crying with tears, we often get this question in class, like what happens when somebody cries? But it's as if we forget that many people are sad without crying. This is just one way to express our sadness. Sadness, we are supposed to be able to feel each other. And I'm actually feeling, I think that's part of the power of emotion, that it allows us to feel each other. It's not, we don't always need to say something. We can be with each other and feel, and we can talk and notice what the other person has to, what's going on with them. And then we find our way to shift what we feel. So we do need to express our emotions, but I want to say there are endless ways to express emotions. You can buy a flower to somebody and it will say so much. You can write a note, it will say so much. You can be quiet sometimes next to another person and it will say so much. You can go and fix somebody's lamps and it will say so much. There are so many ways to say what we feel, and as in our practice, when we teach our practitioners, when we teach students to become practitioners, it's also start by saying, to feel other people. We have that in our way of being as human beings. We are capable of feeling other people's, and we need to find a way to acknowledge that, to strengthen that, and then to express it, and then to find out, how do I express what I feel? Because I can feel, wow, something is going on, but how do I say to you? How do I say that I would feel that I expressed it, but I also feel that I managed to say to the other person in such a way that it connected us and didn't do the opposite. So I think, at least for this day, this is what I would say about expression.
Which is beautiful, because it goes in with one of the Pantarei values of this respect for other people in our environment, to consider them. If you talk about a person expressing, and if it is a very strong, unwanted, we could say, emotion of anger, for one person it could be very violent. And this is not what we're proposing of, yes, go ahead and express yourself, don't repress. No, find a way still to express what you're feeling, but in a way that also respects and acknowledges the people and the place around you.
Exactly.
And the other thing you mentioned, of course, is the practitioners that you work with, and how you teach them also to acknowledge how much we feel from each other, and that it's not necessary for someone to express in a big way how they're feeling, for that feeling still to be true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that sometimes even a practitioner would say, okay, what do I do with all of these emotions? Like when I feel it, I feel so much. What do I do with that? Yeah,
that
it's
was
a language.
actually a question from, we don't have him as a student, but he goes by the name of Mato_unfolded. He asked about how practitioners can hold space for unwanted emotions when giving sessions. Maybe you'd like to explore that a little.
I think we have there, not like we like to say, only one answer in order to do that. I think throughout the training program, we again and again look at this topic of it, but there are certain things that are already very similar to what we said before. If we feel as practitioners something, it's also not that we would tell you, okay, now oppress that or push it away. It would rather look like, how can you find the space in you physically and in your experience to have that, but still being focused on the client that is there and going with the client, looking, does this emotion have something to do with me? Do I feel the client? How can I maybe use it for what we are together doing there? There would be kind of many different, I would say, topics or answers to ask now, okay, what is the unwanted emotion as a practitioner that you are talking about? Is it you're afraid to feel too much of your client, or is it something that you bring in because you had a fight with your best friend before and you cannot concentrate? Is it something that got triggered because you heard the news? And so on all of that, there would be a different answer, but all of the answers would include kind of to investigate what the person is feeling in order to turn it from unwanted into something that shows a way, or that shows an action or a movement here.
So just like you would be open and curious for clients to investigate and explore, the same principle applies to the practitioner.
However, I would just like to add, it's not exactly adding, and Claudia said it, but I would maybe like to emphasize it. I feel that there is something very, almost like a skill that happens as a practitioner that I would like everyone to have it, by the way. I feel that as a practitioner, we truly allow ourselves to hold space to the emotions of our clients and to hold space to our own emotions, and at the same time not to forget that we are guiding the experience at the moment. So I can still, of course, if my clients feel sadness, it would touch my own sadness. Like we, you know, the Pantarei Approach says everybody is unique. We are really, this is one of the very important values that we are having, and we are talking about it quite a lot. But at the same time, all of us had those feelings. So sadness is not only one person felt. We all. So if I touch my clients, and there, even in the story that client said about her father, of course, it touches us. It brings us to feel not only my love to Claudia and to her family, but it's also touched my own heart and with the things that matters to me. And if I am the practitioner and she tells me about this story, I want my heart to be touched. I want her to almost to see that. I want, this would be part of our energy that would move us in the session, but at the same time, now it's not about me. So the difference between a practitioner client's experience or just two friends is that when I'm meeting my clients, it's clear that now it's not about me, it's about them. I'm really seeing them. At the same time, I'm allowing myself to feel all the range of emotions. And when we manage to do that, I really feel again and again how powerful it is, because it teaches me also as a practitioner. It gives me so much freedom that I know, okay, I can feel sad and I can also do things. We know it from life, of course, also. We all have those situations that, okay, the fact that I woke up today and I felt lonely doesn't mean that I will not need to do all the things that I promised that I will do today. But if I manage also to give space to the loneliness and to the sadness and to the sensation that I have, I will have an additional value or a very valuable experience while I'm doing my to-do list or while I'm doing my tasks.
And then we have Marlon just adding her comment. She writes, "This is so valuable in this work, to show up for others while feeling ourselves."
Yeah, this is
an element of empathy and connection.
Yeah, and the ability really then to be active. And I see that again and again in classes, how much it's really a skill that then we can use in our life again and again, because we all need to be able to do that so often. So many
so
times.
valuable having Pantarei sessions and having that level of support or resource. You also mentioned another point in that blog, coming back to to this, was exploring your resources, or as a practitioner, helping your clients explore the resources that they have if they come with something that they are unhappy with or want to change. Would you like to say a little about that point?
Claudia, or you want me to say? Like, I can start. Like, I think that's will always be the thing. Like, we would always, whatever happens in any Pantarei session, it will always be about, let's connect to the uniqueness of the person, to their resources. And on that, let's say we are talking about unwanted emotion, any emotion would be a doorway into who we are. And I think if we remember that, we might also have easier way with our feelings. So if I know that if somebody feels at the moment, I don't know, whatever, anxious, if I know to ask my questions and I really know to keep the space safe and clear and ask question about that and sensation, being anxious. What does it mean for you? What are you anxious about? The more we'll ask questions, again, here I'm not only talking intellectual question, I'm also saying questions directly to the body, directly to the heart, directly to the belly, directly to the existence of the person. The more we ask questions, we might find out that, okay, that's what the person is actually talking about. This is what they feel. They're anxious for, not feeling loved enough. Okay, that actually is a door into, they really wish to feel more love. And now how do we explore that, rather than how do we explore anxiety? We need to find how to let this anxiety flow in the body, of course, but this is not our topic. Our topic is, okay, that person truly looks for being loved, loving others, the sensation of community, the sensation of belonging. And these are all beautiful things. If we can really follow them, we can transform the entire sensation to something that would be interested, would give us energy, would connect us to the resources. So this is what we mean by always connect to the bigger picture, to the resources. Let the emotions, and here the unwanted feeling, the fears, the whatever, sadness, whatever we talked about, really go and explore that until we find out, okay, what is it that you actually want, and how can we explore that? How can we find that?
And I think to connect to the resources is often like difficult when an unwanted emotion is there so strong. Like I would make the curve again and say, here we need often help, or express how we feel in order that somebody else can show us this is not only who you are, this is just an aspect. And if we start to enlarge that, we will come back to a larger picture. We will come back to more different shades. We will kind of find you and maybe even more in it. And I think especially if we are faced with an unwanted emotion that comes back again and again, it becomes so big, so we don't see anything else anymore, also not ourselves. And then having somebody with you there who holds the torchlight a little bit away from now helplessness or wanting to give up or depression, and start to enlarge is wonderful, I think, and to do it on our own, it's a tough job. Yeah.
For sure. And that just comes in. I just want to mention Katarina and Julie and Anushka, who asked specifically, Katarina and Julie, about specific emotions dealing with anger, shame, ridicule, and Anushka about waves of emotion that kind of flood you. I don't know if you want to add something, but I think how you've just answered covers that so beautifully. I don't know if you can say it any more clearly or wonderfully, but if you would like to.
I'm sure we can say, I'm sure that we can say way more, but I think we are almost at the end. So if I need to say something very short about it, I would really then say, yes, it's the same practice again and again. It would be feel it, be aware of that, notice that, and let somebody, if you are lucky enough to be able to get a session about those emotions, I would really go to a practitioner and really explore it together with them. And again, I remind us all, this is not only by them asking us questions, this is by them inviting us to explore. It happens quite often that we will talk with our clients about one emotion. You know, my client would say, I feel so, one of them was anger. No, I feel so angry at somebody. And then we'll start the session and put them on this, the session happens many times on kind of a massage table. I'll put them on that walking table, we would call it. I'll put my hands on them, and suddenly I wouldn't feel any anger. And I would feel something very different. And I would ask them, well, what I feel is a lot of care or love or wonder or confusion. Is that true? And we would start a whole exploration of why do they believe this is anger, and maybe we would find also the anger in that mix, but it will be always way more richer. And therefore I would say, yes, fine. And if you don't have a practitioner, then there is also many ways of just lie down, breathe, feel your own experience, feel who you are at that moment, trust your own experience, and start to really untangle it and notice, what is it, what do I actually feel over there, and what do I want to express, and how would I like to express it.
Yeah, we are definitely much bigger than a certain emotion that we're feeling in a particular time, or a certain challenge we're going through. To reconnect to that is gold. And for all of you who want to get in touch with a practitioner, or are even interested in the profession of becoming a practitioner helping clients, visit our website. We're on pantareiapproach.com. And of course, so much of this content you have described in different ways, in Instagram, in the stories, in the posts, in the blog. And on YouTube, where this video will also be posted in a few days' time. So there's a lot of resources that you can already use to support as a tool to help yourself if you don't have a practitioner nearby. And with that, I think we can close today's Beyond session. Looking forward to the next one next month. We're still to define a date, but we'll definitely publish that. And it will be all about Pantarei and Pantarei sessions. So if you are curious about wanting to know more, we will address all of those questions coming up.
Wishing all of you a wonderful weekend with enjoying your emotions no matter what.
For sure.
Happy summer, happy weekend. Yeah, thank
you. Always a pleasure. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.